Okay, we're going to walk through how to import financials into Regroup. So once you're ready to import financials for the current year, you'll go into that specific client and you'll click Import Accounts. That's going to bring up this window. There's two options. You can either connect directly to Xero if you have access to that client's Xero file, or you can import a file. So if you choose to import a file, there's different formats that you can use. Down here you'll see that we support QuickBooks and Xero. So if you have access to the QuickBooks file or your client sends you financials out of QuickBooks, you can either import the balance sheet and the income statement or the trial balance. Same with Xero. If your client sends you financials in a PDF format, or if they use a different accounting software, we will need to create an actual trial balance. Two columns. Column A is the book account name, column B is the book value, and you would import an Excel trial balance here. So the most common way that we're going to import is using the QuickBooks or Xero financials, since a lot of clients use that software. So let's say you get the QuickBooks file from your client. What you'll want to do if you're going to import the balance sheet and income statement is to export both the balance sheet and the income statement out of QuickBooks into one Excel workbook. So it's important that they're both in the same workbook but on different tabs. So you'll have the balance sheet on one tab and the income statement on another tab. And I know sometimes when you export out of QuickBooks, there's a third tab that generates, which says QuickBooks Export Tips. You can go ahead and leave that. We've tried to make it as easy as possible to not have to manipulate anything before you import. And we have tried to cover all of the different formats that you might be exporting or that your clients might be sending to you. So year-to-year comparison reports should work. If there's a trend P&L, that should work. All the different formats that you may receive. So the easiest thing to do is just to export a normal balance sheet and income statement for the current year, but we do try to cover all of the different formats. So let's go ahead and walk through an example. So we'll say that we want to import a QuickBooks balance sheet and income statement. We'll choose the file and find that file on our computer. Now, when you import, you want to make sure that that file is closed. You don't want it open somewhere on your computer. So when you export out of QuickBooks, you'll put the balance sheet and the income statement on two different tabs and save that workbook somewhere on your computer, close out of it, and then walk through this import process. So we've chosen our file down here, and then we'll click Upload File. And what that's going to do is read that entire workbook and create a trial balance within Regroup software. So it's going to then show us what we just imported. So as you can see, these are the book account names and these are the values, and it's telling us that it's in balance, so we can go ahead and import. So you'll say confirm, please import, and then what that's going to do is actually create the accounts tab within this specific client, and it'll also tell you how many accounts need to be mapped. So if it's a first-year client, all of the accounts are going to need to be mapped because every client needs to be set up within Regroup. However, if it's the year after setup or years moving forward, there should only be a handful, if any, new accounts that need to be mapped. So this will tell you that right here. And then we'll close. The file will automatically be updated to in process. And this accounts tab has been created along with a handful of other tabs. So if we scroll down, we can then begin mapping our accounts. So another thing to notice is if you do get updated financials from your client and you have not begun the mapping process, you can go ahead and delete all of the accounts and start the import process over. Or if you have mapped all of them, but you just want to update the values because the financials have been updated, you'll go through this process again, choose the file, the new financials, upload, and then the system's going to warn us that we've already imported for the year, but we will say we want to update the account balances. So it's going to leave all the book account names the same and all the mappings the same, but it's going to update the values based on those book account names. If you just have a few new accounts, you can append to the existing trial balance that was created. So that's just going to tack on to the end of it. Okay. Another thing to note, if you do walk through this import process and something is out of whack, you will get an error message down here. So for instance, if we try to import a QuickBooks balance sheet and income statement, but say we accidentally only saved the balance sheet, it'll tell us down here, there'll be a red warning saying there is no income statement that's been found. So it'll try to guide you in the right direction. Like I said, we've tried to cover all formats of the balance sheet and income statement or a trial balance that could come out of QuickBooks or Xero. However, you might run into a format that our system doesn't recognize. If that's the case, you'll also get an error, and what you can do is go over here and send us a chat and just say, hey, I'm getting an error, here's the file that I'm trying to upload, and we will address that as soon as possible. Another workaround, if you do run into that, is to just go ahead and create a trial balance or export a different format if you have access to the QuickBooks file. So now let's walk through an actual trial balance that we would have to create. Again, this is only if you get financials in a different format other than QuickBooks or Xero. So if your client sends you PDF or a different accounting software. So what we're going to do is create an Excel trial balance. Okay, so let's take a look at what the Excel trial balance should look like. As mentioned, you will want the book account names in column A. You can use account numbers if you want. If you used them last year, you should use them this year, or else the software won't recognize the book account name. And then you'll want to make sure that the values are in the number format. This should default to 2 decimal places, and we don't want to use the thousand separator. And we'll push OK, and then you can see down here that the sum is 0, which is what we want. And then you'll go ahead and save this trial balance as a CSV file. So this one's already been saved, so I'll cancel out of this. And you'll want to make sure that it's closed before you import. So we'll choose Excel trial balance and then upload file. Again, it's going to tell us we've already imported for this client, but as you can see here, the book account names and the values that we created. So just to recap some of the helpful hints when importing. You'll want to make sure if you're using balance sheet and income statement that both are on a separate tab in the same Excel workbook. Make sure that workbook is saved somewhere on your computer and close out of it before importing. You'll also want to make sure that if you're using an Excel trial balance, if you don't have access to QuickBooks or Xero, that it's saved in CSV format, that the numbers in column B are in the number category format, and that it sums to 0. Make sure it's saved somewhere on your computer, close out of it before you import. And then if you need to re-import, if you get updated financials, there's 2 options. Delete all accounts on the Accounts tab and start over, or simply walk through the import process again and update the account values. And that's it. Should be super easy.